In this video, I'm going to show you how to make every Korlak Tyrant Weed fight easy. Hi guys, I'm Legionless, and this channel is about helping you enjoy your games more. The Korlak Tyrant Weed is probably one of the most annoying things to run into for unprepared teams. It can cause many teams to wipe if they don't know how to take it out correctly. In this video, I'm going to simplify all the difficulties I see teams have with the Korlak Tyrant Weed into one problem so you can easily overcome it, and then let you guys know what each class should be doing to make every Korlak fight you encounter easy. In 90% of Deep Rock Galactic, you can win just by having the most endurance. Survive long enough in a tough wave of enemies and eventually that wave will end. Survive long enough in the mission, you'll eventually get to the end and you can call the drop pod. With Korlak fights though, what causes teams to fail often is by treating the fight like a test of endurance. You have the Sprout shooting at you, and the longer you're fighting against them, the less health you're likely to have, and the less ammo you'll have to kill the main Tyrant Weed. The longer it takes to kill the healing pod, the more health the Korlak will recover, which means the less ammo you'll have as you're trying to juggle killing the Sprouts that are shooting at you, the healing pod that recovers the boss's health, and then the main Korlak. So what do? The quicker you are at killing the healing pod, the faster you stop the boss from regaining health. The quicker you kill the Sprout shooting at you, the faster the boss opens up and you can damage it. The quicker you get to each damage threshold on the Korlak, the few seconds of breathing room you get because the boss can't heal past that chunk of health you've done to it. Each health pool will follow the same loop. Kill Sprouts by shooting them in their weak points, which are the tops that shoot at you. Kill the healing pod that heals the boss. Kill any more Sprouts if the boss opens up, and then damage the boss with as much burst damage as you can do. Keep in mind that the Sprouts have a 30% weakness to fire and frost, and 100% weakness to melee attacks. The healing pod has a 50% weakness to melee attacks, and both the healing pod and the Sprout both share a 20% resistance to explosive damage and electrocution damage. The Tyrant Weed has a 20% weakness to melee damage, a 30% resistance to explosive damage, and a 50% resistance to electrocution damage. The longer it takes you to kill the Tyrant Weed, the greater your chances are at failure. The faster you get to each damage threshold on the Tyrant Weed, the faster you get a moment to catch your breath because it won't be able to heal itself past that threshold. The faster you get through each health pool, the easier your Korlak Tyrant Weed fights become. Now, what does each class do in the Tyrant Weed fights so you can get easy and quick kills? Let's start with the Scout. The Scout is the fastest class on the team, so it should be searching for the healing pod in the area and killing it as quickly as possible, so any health regen will stop. If the healing pod has been taken care of, the Scout should start shooting the weak points on Sprouts with non-explosive and non-electrocution damage. The Scout should also light up the area so that he and the rest of the team can better see the different parts of the Korlak. Once the Tyrant opens up, the Scout should do as much burst damage as possible to get through the pool of health. For the Engineer, he should set his sentry turret down so it'll shoot at Sprouts whenever they grow back. He should also focus on the Sprouts himself, but stay near the Tyrant. If there's a healing pod nearby that the Engineer can grab, great, but otherwise the Engineer needs to be by the Tyrant at all times to be ready to damage it. The Engineer has one of the highest burst damage potential out of the 4 classes, so when the Tyrant is ready to be damaged directly, he needs to be there to ram his shotgun down to do as much damage as possible. The Engineer should start with a quick pickaxe power attack because the Tyrant is weak to melee attacks, and then start pumping the shotgun's pellets into it. If you need some high burst damage builds, check out my Engineer weapon build videos in the description below or in the card at the top of your screen. The Driller should be using his flamethrower or cryo gun on the Sprouts. This is his most important job because the Sprouts have their 30% weaknesses to both of the Driller's main weapons. If there's no Sprouts nearby, the Driller can open up the area with his drills to make moving around easier for the rest of the team, but he can also help look for the healing pod. When the Tyrant opens up for direct damage, the Driller's best options are his throwing axes, drills, and secondary weapons, but the most important job will be quickly taking out the Sprouts. With the throwing axes and drills, they'll be doing extra damage to the Tyrant because of its weaknesses. Admittedly, the Driller often feels a bit underwhelming during this fight since his main responsibility is on crowd control and not on single target damage to the main Tyrant Weed. It's still a very important role though, since the drillers are always spec'd out to be really effective against the sprouts. But know that your worth to the team comes by supporting those that can deal the most damage to the Tyrant itself. Moving on to the gunner is just chef's kiss during this fight, especially with the fast firing minigun. The gunner's main responsibilities are taking care of the sprouts quickly and then dealing direct damage to the Tyrant Weed. The gunner will do so much damage to the Tyrant, so he needs to be ready for when it opens up. The minigun will be the best way for the gunner to shred through the Tyrant Weed, but the autocannon won't be bad. His secondaries will do pretty good damage too, but the shield generator can be a game changer if someone on the team gets targeted by too many sprouts and goes down, or if the team just needs some quick cover. The gunner and the engineer together can very quickly shred through each section of health on the Korlak Tyrant Weed, so they both need to stay near to it to be ready for it to open up. The Korlak Tyrant Weed seems like a very difficult fight, especially at higher hazard levels, but it's a test of speed and efficiency, not endurance. Teams that take a long time to kill the sprouts in the healing pod are going to have a tough time. Teams that take a long time to get through each section of the Tyrant's health are also going to have a tough time. The quicker you can kill the Tyrant, the less ammo you waste, and the more health you should have to continue throughout the rest of your mission. Make sure to grab the Tyrant shards that drop for some extra credits and XP at the end of the mission. If you're unsure of your class's role in the team and missions, especially outside of the Korlak Tyrant Weed fight, check out my Know Your Role video by tapping on your screen. If you learned something from this video, subscribe to the channel and like this video to help me out. Thanks for watching.